It's December. Christmas lights are glowing. New Year's Eve is approaching. Everyone around you is talking about fresh starts, new chapters, resolutions for the year ahead. The calendar is about to reset, and instead of feeling excited, you feel something else, something heavy, something that makes you want to retreat rather than celebrate. You tell yourself it's just holiday stress, but it's not. What you're actually feeling is fear. Not fear of the holiday itself, not fear of the parties or the family gatherings or the countdown to midnight. You're afraid of what the new year represents. You're afraid of the clean slate, the fresh beginning, the opportunity to become someone different. And that terror is so deep, so unconscious, that you've convinced yourself you're just tired or overwhelmed or not in the holiday spirit. But here's the truth that will change how you see this entire season. The new year terrifies you because it removes your excuses. It marks a clear line between the past and the future. And when that line is drawn, you can no longer hide behind "I'll do it eventually," or "maybe next year," or "when the timing is right." The new year forces you to confront the gap between who you are and who you could be. And that gap is what you're really afraid of. We've been taught that New Year's is about hope, renewal, and excitement for what's coming. The resolutions are signs of ambition and self-improvement. But for most people, the approach of January 1st doesn't bring hope. It brings anxiety. Because deep down, you know that another year is ending and you're still the same person with the same problems, the same patterns, the same unfulfilled potential. And the new year is a mirror forcing you to look at that reality. This is the calendar reckoning. And once you understand what's really happening in your mind as December turns to January, you can finally stop avoiding the holiday season and start using it for what it was always meant to be, a moment of honest transformation, not hollow optimism. Think about how you actually feel when people ask, "What are your New Year's resolutions?" Do you feel inspired? Or do you feel exposed? Like they're asking you to publicly acknowledge all the ways you fell short this year. Like they're asking you to make promises you probably won't keep. Like they're forcing you to confront the uncomfortable truth that you could have changed this year, but didn't. That discomfort isn't about the question. It's about what the question reveals. You spent the entire year telling yourself stories about why you couldn't change, why you couldn't start that business, why you couldn't leave that relationship, why you couldn't build better habits. And those stories worked because there was always more time. But now it's December, the year is ending, and all that time you said you had it, and you didn't use it. This is the time accountability. The new year strips away the illusion that you have infinite time to become who you want to be. It forces you to face the fact that another 12 months passed and you're standing in almost the exact same place you were last January. And that realization is crushing because it means the problem isn't time. The problem is you. David spent every January making the same resolutions: lose weight, get in shape, build a better routine. And every January, he'd start strong. Gym membership purchased, meal plan created, motivation high. But by February, he'd be back to his old patterns. And he'd tell himself, "Next year, I'll really commit next year." But now it's December again. Another year went by, and he's exactly where he was. The hope he had last January feels like a cruel joke. What David doesn't want to admit is that the pattern itself reveals the truth. He doesn't want to change as much as he wants to want to change. The resolutions make him feel like he's trying, like he's ambitious, like he's got a plan. But following through would require him to actually become someone different. And becoming someone different means leaving behind the person he's been. And that person, even though David isn't happy being him, is familiar, safe, known.
This is the change resistance. Your brain will let you dream about transformation. It will let you make resolutions. It will let you feel excited on New Year's Eve. But when it comes time to actually execute, when January 2nd arrives and the real work begins, your brain will find every reason to pull you back to who you've always been. Because change, even positive change, registers as threat. And New Year's makes that threat impossible to ignore. Every other time of year, you can tell yourself, I'm working on it, or I'm in process. But January 1st draws a hard line, before and after. Old year, new year. Old you, new you. And if the new you doesn't show up, if you're still the same person making the same excuses, you can't pretend anymore. You have to face the fact that you're choosing to stay exactly where you are. This is why so many people feel depressed around the holidays. Not because of family drama or financial stress. Those are just surface explanations. The real reason is existential. The new year is a cultural moment of collective reflection. And reflection forces you to see the gap between your potential and your reality. And for most people, that gap is enormous. And looking at it hurts. Emily scrolls through social media in late December and sees everyone posting their year in review. Friends who traveled, got promoted, got engaged, achieved things. And Emily looks at her own year and realizes she has almost nothing to show for it. Same job, same apartment, same routines. Another 12 months pass and she's indistinguishable from who she was a year ago. The new year isn't exciting for Emily. It's evidence of stagnation. But here's what Emily won't admit, even to herself. She had opportunities this year. She had moments where she could have taken risks, made changes, pushed herself. But every time, she chose safety. She chose comfort. She chose the familiar. And now, as the year ends, she has to face the fact that her life didn't happen to her. She chose it. And that realization is unbearable because it means she's responsible. This is the accountability confrontation. The new year doesn't just mark the passage of time, it marks the passage of choice. All the decisions you made or didn't make, all the times you said later when you could have said now, all the moments you chose easy over meaningful. The calendar doesn't lie. 12 months passed. What did you do with them? And that question, what did you do with them, is what you're really afraid of. Because the answer for most people is not enough, not nearly enough. You had time, you had opportunities, you had potential, and you let another year pass without stepping into it. And now the new year is coming, offering you another chance, and you're terrified because you know deep down you're probably going to waste that one too. But the fear goes even deeper than wasted time. There's a darker layer beneath it. New Year's resolutions aren't just about what you want to achieve. They're about who you're admitting you're not. When you resolve to lose weight, you're admitting you're currently overweight. When you resolve to be more disciplined, you're admitting you're currently undisciplined. When you resolve to build better relationships, you're admitting your current relationships aren't working. This is the identity admission. Resolutions force you to name your inadequacies, and naming them makes them real. As long as you don't make a resolution, you can pretend the problem doesn't exist or isn't that serious. But the moment you commit to change, you're confessing that something about you needs fixing. And that confession feels like failure before you even start. Michael hates the question, "What's your resolution?" Because answering it honestly would mean admitting he's been avoiding dealing with his habits, his health, his lack of direction. So instead, he makes jokes. "My resolution is to not make resolutions." Everyone laughs. But underneath the joke is fear. Fear of being seen as someone who needs to improve. Fear of acknowledging out loud that he's not where he should be.
So Michael avoids the entire ritual. He doesn't make resolutions. He doesn't reflect on the year. He just lets December turn into January without marking the transition. And he tells himself he's being realistic, not buying into the cultural hype. But what he's actually doing is protecting himself from the uncomfortable truth that another year passed and he's still stuck. This is the avoidance strategy. If you don't make resolutions, you don't have to admit there's a gap. If you don't reflect on the year, you don't have to face what you didn't accomplish. If you treat New Year's as just another day, you don't have to deal with the symbolic weight of a fresh start. You stay safe, but you also stay stuck. And then there's the final, deepest fear, the one almost nobody talks about. You're not just afraid of failing to change, you're afraid of succeeding. Because if you actually transform, if you actually become disciplined, healthy, successful, confident, you'll have to live as that person. And that person has responsibilities, expectations, visibility. That person can't hide anymore. That person has to show up fully. And that feels more terrifying than staying small ever did. This is the success terror. Staying stuck means you can always dream about who you could be without ever having to become that person. You can live in potential without ever facing the reality of execution. But if you actually change, if you actually step into the new version of yourself that New Year's is inviting you to become, you lose the safety of maybe someday. You have to live as the person you've been saying you want to be. And that's a level of accountability most people will do anything to avoid. So what do? How do you stop fearing the new year and start using it? First, you have to separate the calendar from the change. The new year doesn't create transformation, it just marks time. Change happens when you decide, not when the date changes. If you're waiting for January 1st to give you permission or motivation, you're giving your power to a social construct. You can start now. You can start tomorrow. The date is irrelevant. This is the date irrelevance. Stop treating January 1st like it's magic. It's not. It's just a day. And the same brain, the same habits, the same fears you have on December 31st will still be there on January 1st unless you do the internal work to shift them. The calendar won't do that work for you. David realized that he'd been using New Year's as a procrastination tool. I'll start in January gave him permission to delay for weeks. But starting in January wasn't different from starting in November. The only difference was the story he told himself. Once he saw that, he stopped waiting for the perfect date and just started. And when he did, the change actually stuck because it wasn't built on arbitrary timing, it was built on real decision. Second, you have to face the gap honestly. Stop pretending you're closer to your potential than you are. Stop making excuses for why this year didn't work out. Look at the gap between who you are and who you want to be and acknowledge it without judgment or defense. Just see it clearly. This is the honest inventory. Emily sat down in late December and wrote out everything she'd avoided this year, not to punish herself, but to see the pattern. She realized she had a habit of choosing comfort over growth in almost every situation. And once she could see the pattern, she could interrupt it. But she couldn't interrupt what she wouldn't acknowledge. Third, you have to make resolutions that are real, not performative. Most resolutions fail because they're not actually yours. They're what you think you should want or what sounds impressive. But real change only happens when you're changing for yourself, not for how it looks.
Michael stopped making public resolutions. He stopped announcing his plans to friends and family. He made private commitments to himself that weren't about impressing anyone. And that shift changed everything because he wasn't performing transformation. He was actually living it. Fourth, you have to build tolerance for becoming someone new. Yes, change means you'll have to live differently. Yes, you'll have responsibilities you don't have now. Yes, people will see you differently. But that's not a threat. It's the entire point. You're not trying to stay who you are. You're trying to grow beyond who you've been. This is the identity expansion. You don't lose yourself when you change. You expand yourself. The core of who you are doesn't disappear, but you access parts of yourself that have been dormant, and those parts might feel unfamiliar at first, but they're not foreign. They're just new. Fifth, stop using the new year as an all-or-nothing moment. You don't have to transform your entire life on January 1st. You don't have to become a completely different person overnight. Small, consistent changes compound over time. One small decision, repeated daily,
will do more than 10 ambitious resolutions that get abandoned by February. David stopped trying to overhaul everything at once. He picked one thing, morning routine, and made it consistent. That's it. And once that one thing was solid, it created momentum for the next thing. But if he'd tried to change everything simultaneously like he did every other year, he would have overwhelmed himself into quitting. The fear of New Year's isn't irrational. It's rooted in real psychological dynamics. Accountability is heavy. Confronting wasted time is painful. Admitting inadequacy is uncomfortable. Becoming someone new is uncertain. Your brain has legitimate reasons to resist all of that. But resisting it doesn't make it go away. It just means you'll feel the same fear next December when another year has passed and you're still in the same place. The only way out is through. Face the gap, own the wasted time, make real commitments, and then follow through. Not because it's January, but because you decided to become someone who follows through. The new year is just a cultural marker, but you can use that marker as a tool. You can let it be a moment of honest reflection and intentional redirection, not because the date is magic, but because you're choosing to make it meaningful. And when you do that, something shifts. The fear starts to dissolve, because you're not avoiding the gap anymore. You're working to close it. You're not pretending you have infinite time. You're using the time you have. You're not performing change for others. You're living change for yourself. Emily stopped scrolling through other people's accomplishments and started building her own. She realized comparison was just another avoidance strategy, a way to focus on others so she didn't have to focus on herself. Once she redirected that energy inward, progress became possible.
Michael stopped joking about resolutions and started making real ones. Not loud, public declarations, quiet, private commitments. And he kept them. And that changed how he saw himself. He wasn't the guy who talked about change anymore. He was the guy who actually changed. David realized that he'd been afraid of his own potential. Afraid that if he actually got in shape, actually built discipline, actually became who he wanted to be, he'd have to live up to that version of himself permanently. And that felt like pressure. But once he reframed it, not as pressure, but as freedom, everything shifted. Here's the truth. The new year will come whether you're ready or not. The calendar will reset. January will arrive. And you'll either step into it as someone who's finally ready to close the gap, or you'll step into it as someone who's carrying the same fears and excuses into another year. The question is, which version of you is showing up? The one who avoids reflection because it's uncomfortable? Or the one who uses reflection as fuel for real transformation? You've spent years fearing the new year, fearing the accountability, fearing the gap, fearing the change. And that fear has kept you exactly where you are. But fear isn't protecting you. It's imprisoning you. The moment you stop fearing the new year is the moment you start using it, not as a magic reset, not as a cultural obligation, but as a tool, a marker, a moment to choose differently. And when you make that choice, not on January 1st, but right now, in this moment, you'll realize that the fear was never about the new year. It was about you. About stepping into your potential, about living at the level you're capable of, about becoming who you've always known you could be if you just stopped hiding. The new year isn't your enemy. Your avoidance is. The calendar isn't what's holding you back. Your resistance to change is. And once you see that clearly, you can finally stop letting December turn into January while you stay the same. This new year can be different, but only if you are. And you already know whether you're going to be.